Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before I say anything else, I just want to let you guys know that I am, at the time of me filming this, I'm less than 200 away from 20,000 subscribers, and I would really like to get there before the end of the year. I'd really like to get to 20,000 subscribers by 2020. Well, at the time of me filming this, I am about 200 away, and this is going up in maybe 4 or 5 days, so by the time you're seeing this, I may have hit 20,000, which is really exciting. But if any of you are watching this right now and you are not subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe if you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it. I try to upload a new true crime video every single week. Some weeks I'm a bit behind, but normally every single week there is a brand new true crime video. So if that is something that you might be interested in, please do hit the subscribe button. But yeah, sorry for that little bit of self-promo. Now we will get into the actual video. So today we are going to be talking about the Covina Massacre case, which is a very fitting case for this time of the year because this case actually happened on Christmas Eve. And I had never actually heard of this case before or come across it until the other day. And when I started reading into it, I just decided that I definitely wanted to cover it. Just before I do get into the video, I want to clarify that my intent with these videos is never to offend or upset anyone that may have been involved with this case. All the information I found on this video has been from several different sources online, so I do apologise if anything is incorrect, or if you think that I've missed something out that is really important to the case, please feel free to let me know in the comments. And having said all of that, let's just get into today's case. So it was Christmas Eve, so the 24th of December 2008, and in the city of Covina in Los Angeles, the Ortega family were holding a Christmas party. 80-year-old Joseph Ortega and 70-year-old Elisa Ortega had invited round to this party their 5 children, their 5 adult children, the boys Charles and James, and the girls Sylvia, Elisa and Leticia. These 5 siblings were all adults, like I said, and so they all had their own families and partners and children who obviously also came to this Christmas party. Altogether, I believe there was around 25 to 30 people attending this party, all of which were family and friends of Joseph and Elisa Ortega. And the party was going really well. Everyone was having a really nice time. Everyone was in good spirits because it was Christmas Eve. The adults were playing games such as poker and the children were all playing together. And then at around 11:30 p.m, the guests were all kind of gathered around the front door of the house because it was getting late, and so they were all getting ready to leave. And that was when there was a knock at the front door. The front door was answered by an 8-year-old girl named Katrina, who was actually the daughter of Leticia, who was one of the 5 adult siblings of Joseph and Elisa Ortega. So 8-year-old Katrina opened the front door, and to her surprise, she saw a man standing there in a Santa Claus outfit. And as any young child would, Katrina got really excited. It was Christmas Eve and Santa Claus was stood at the door, and so she started shouting, "Santa Claus, Santa Claus." The man in this Santa suit was also carrying in one of his hands a wrapped Christmas present, and seconds after Katrina answered the door, he actually got out a gun and shot 8-year-old Katrina in the face. Thankfully, this bullet only hit Katrina in the side of her jaw and on her cheek, so it wasn't a fatal gunshot wound. However, of course, she was still very badly injured. And after shooting Katrina, the gunman then just began firing at the other party guests, who at this point were screaming and trying to run away from the scene. And some of the guests ran straight underneath the dining table to almost kind of take cover. And it seemed as though a lot of the guests at the party actually knew the attacker and recognised him, despite the fact that he was wearing a Santa suit, because they kept shouting, "It's Bruce." After the gunman had finished shooting, he unwrapped the present that he was carrying in his hand the whole time, and inside this present was a flamethrower, and he used this flamethrower to spray racing fuel gasoline around the house so that he could set it on fire. Meanwhile, several people were calling the police whilst the attack was going on, including some neighbours neighbours who actually rang the police to say that they thought that someone had intentionally set fire to the Ortega home, and another neighbour who said that they could hear gunshots. Another person who rang the police was Leticia, who was one of the 5 adult Ortega children and also the mother of Katrina, the little girl that was shot in the face. Leticia managed to escape the scene, and she straight away ran outside where she met her 8-year-old daughter Katrina, and obviously when she was outside she rang the police and told them that someone had just come into her parents' home and just started shooting her friends and family. And as you can imagine, Leticia was hysterical in her phone calls to 911, and there are clips of her phone call online, so if I can I will put a few clips in now, but if I can't I will leave them linked in the description anyway in case you want to go and listen to them. So firefighters arrived at the scene and literally the whole of the Ortega house was just engulfed with flames. The fire has soared to approximately 40 to 50 feet, and overall it took about 80 firefighters an hour and a half to extinguish the flames. A lot of the guests at the party did manage to escape the scene without any physical injury, however sadly others were not so lucky. 3 people were very badly injured, however they did survive their injuries, and this included 8-year-old Katrina, who was obviously shot in the side of the face. She did have to have surgery, but she did make a full recovery. A 16-year-old girl was also shot and wounded in her back, but again she managed to survive, and a 20-year-old woman suffered from a broken ankle after she jumped out of a 2nd floor window trying to escape the attack. However, 9 people in total were missing amongst the survivors, and as the police began looking through the Ortega home once the fire was extinguished, they found the remains of these 9 people. Due to the intensity of this fire, these bodies were literally unrecognizable, and although everyone pretty much knew who these 9 people were because they were the only ones missing, they were eventually identified through medical and dental records. The 9 victims who died as a result of this attack were a married couple and the hosts of the party, 8-year-old Joseph and 70-year-old Elisa Ortega, and 4 of their adult children, Charles, James, Elisa and Sylvia. In fact, Leticia was the only one of the 5 siblings who survived. The other people who lost their lives that night included a 17-year-old boy named Michael, who I believe was the son of one of the siblings, Elisa, and he died on his own upstairs as a result of the fire. And the other 2 people who died were 2 women named Sherry Lynn Ortega and Teresa Ortega. Some of these victims died as a result of the fire, some of them died as a result of being shot, and for some of them it was a combination of both. So straight away the police asked the survivors if they knew the man that attacked them, if they recognised him, and a lot of them did, including Leticia, who said that she was absolutely certain that the man dressed in this Santa suit was her sister Sylvia's ex-husband Bruce Pardo. And so the police obviously began trying to track down this Bruce Pardo, and they learned that 30 miles away from the Ortega home, so 30 miles away from where this attack took place, the police in the Silmar neighborhood of California had been called that evening to the home of a man named Brad Pardo. Brad had returned to his home in Silmar after he had actually been to a Christmas party that evening, and when he got home he actually found the dead body of his brother Bruce Pardo lying in a pool of his own blood. So the police went straight to Brad's house and they found that Bruce Pardo had shot himself in the head with a 9mm handgun. There was also a 9mm pistol in Bruce's lap and another one on the floor beside him. And so the police began realising that the attack at the Ortega house and the suicide of this man, Bruce Pardo, were probably linked, because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the survivors said that they were sure that the man in the Santa suit was Bruce Pardo. Bruce Pardo was the ex-husband of one of the Ortega's adult children, Sylvia. From what I read online, apparently the police speculated that the motive for this attack was due to his and Sylvia's marriage problems. Bruce and Sylvia had only actually been married for about a year. I believe they got married in January of 2006, but the marriage was short-lived because Sylvia actually discovered that Bruce had been lying pretty much throughout their entire relationship. So Sylvia Ortega herself had actually been married before her marriage to Bruce, and she had 3 children from this marriage. However, Bruce told Sylvia that he had no children, but that was a lie. He actually had a son from a previous marriage that he had kept a secret from Sylvia. Bruce's son was called Matthew, and one time when Matthew was 13 months old, he was left by his mother Elena in the care of Bruce, his father. So Elena was Bruce's ex-wife, although they were still together at the time of this happening. And Elena that day decided to go grocery shopping, and she left Matthew with Bruce. Now, I don't know too much about exactly what happened next, but according to a few sources that I read online, somehow 13-month-old Matthew managed to get outside of the house. He got into the garden and he fell into the swimming pool. Bruce eventually found Matthew lying unconscious in the swimming pool, and when Elena got home, she discovered Bruce just standing holding unconscious Matthew in his arms. It was like he was frozen. He didn't know what to do. So immediately Matthew was rushed straight to hospital, and luckily he did survive. However, he did suffer severe brain damage, meaning that he would have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. And around 6 months later, Bruce and Elena's relationship just kind of broke down, and so they separated. But Bruce didn't actually continue to see his son Matthew. He pretty much just stopped all contact with him. And he also wouldn't pay any money towards Matthew or his medical bills, because obviously he was brain damaged now. He had a lot of medical bills, or Elena did, and Bruce just wouldn't pay anything towards those. Eventually Elena sued Bruce, and he was ordered to pay $240 each month for Matthew's care. But despite this, he still wouldn't visit his son. But Bruce's mother still maintained regular contact with Elena and her grandchild Matthew, and Bruce's mother was actually the one who told Bruce's new wife Sylvia about his child Matthew. And as you can imagine, Sylvia was so upset that Bruce had kept this massive secret from her the whole time, and so she decided to divorce him. But as well as that, there were also a few other reasons why Sylvia felt as though her marriage to Bruce just wasn't working, and those reasons included the fact that Bruce apparently didn't want to open a joint bank account with Sylvia, and also apparently Bruce would refuse to help out with the finances when it came to the care of Sylvia's 3 children. And Bruce and Sylvia's divorce was settled literally a week before the attack at the Ortega house, and so it's believed that Bruce was very angry with Sylvia for divorcing him, and that was his motive for the attack. I also read on a few sources that Bruce had apparently lost his job as an engineer not long before the attack. I don't know the reason why he lost his job, and so it seemed as though Bruce felt as though he had nothing. He didn't have his job anymore, he didn't have any contact with his son, his wife Sylvia had just divorced him, and he wanted to get back at her for that. I've also seen that the police speculated that Bruce actually also intended to kill Sylvia's divorce lawyer and also his own mother, because she felt sympathy for Sylvia. And it's also believed that Bruce's original plan wasn't actually to kill himself after the attack. The police believed that he intended to just flee and go on the run. So after the attack, it was found that straight away Bruce put on some other clothes over his Santa suit, and he drove his rental car 30 miles away to his brother's house in Silmar, California. Now, the police discovered that Bruce Pardo had actually purchased a plane ticket to Illinois for after he committed the crime. Does that make sense? So Bruce had brought a ticket to Illinois for after he had committed the attack so that he could get away really quickly, and it was found that one of his friends actually lived in Illinois, and Bruce had actually rang this friend that lived in Illinois just a few days before the murders, just saying that he was intending on visiting him. And so this is why the investigators believe that he didn't actually his original plan wasn't to kill himself. They believe that he planned to carry out this attack and then flee to Illinois, but for some reason he decided to kill himself instead, which we'll get onto in a second. And something that also suggests that this was Bruce's original plan was that when police discovered his body, they found that he actually had $17,000 in cash, cling filmed, so like wrapped around his leg inside a girdle. And they theorized that he had this money wrapped around his legs because he would need it in cash if he was going to go on the run. Or maybe he brought this plane ticket to Illinois to fool the police, to make them think that that's where he was going, so that he could lead them down the wrong path and give him more time to escape to somewhere else. However, Bruce actually decided to go against his plan to go on the run, because during the attack he actually sustained third-degree burns on his arms when he set the Ortega house on fire. And Bruce was so badly burnt that some of the Santa suit that he was wearing had actually melted into his skin. So I don't know whether it was because he was in so much pain from these burns that he decided to kill himself, but he took off as much of this Santa suit as he could, the parts where it wasn't like melted into his skin. He took off as much of this suit as he could and he put it in his rental car, which was parked about 1 block away from his brother Brad's house. But Bruce didn't just put it inside of this rental car, he actually rigged the remnants of the Santa suit with gunpowder so that if anyone touched it or tried to move it, the car would explode. And the car eventually did explode, however thankfully no one was injured. And then after he had done this, Bruce went inside of his brother's house and he shot himself in the head with the 9mm handgun, which was the exact same gun that was used to shoot the guests at the Ortega house. Also found at the scene near Bruce's dead body were 4 13-round capacity handguns and at least 200 rounds of ammunition. And at Bruce's own house in Montrose, the police found 5 empty boxes for semi-automatic handguns, 2 shotguns and a container for high-octane fuel tank gasoline. Now, after the Covina Massacre and after the deaths of 9 of her family members, Leticia Ortega, the only survivor of the Ortega siblings, actually created a blog called Leticia's Hope in honor of her lost family members. Leticia writes blogs about her experiences and her stories of love and healing and family, and she hopes to just help others by giving them hope. I was reading a few of her posts on her blog earlier and honestly her blog is really inspiring. I'm going to leave it linked down below in case anyone else wants to go and have a little look at it. I honestly could not even imagine what Leticia went through after the massacre, because I'm one of 5 siblings and I could not imagine losing one of them, let alone all 4, and her parents as well. But like I said, she is so inspiring. She's tried to bring something positive out of it by creating her blog and trying to help others. And her daughter Katrina, who if you remember was the little 8-year-old girl who was shot in the face, Katrina's obviously an adult now and she campaigns to stop gun violence, and I believe she is also working to demand a change in weapon laws. So yeah, I will leave Leticia's blog linked down below if you guys want to go and have a look at it. And that is pretty much it for this case. Before I go, I just want to give a special shout out to the members of my Patreon. Thank you so much for your support, guys. If anyone else wants to become a member of our little Patreon family, I will leave the link in the description of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up and please do subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm almost at 20,000 subscribers and I would really like to get there before the end of the year. And yeah, that is everything I have to say. I always end my videos saying the same thing, I've noticed. I will see you again very soon for another mystery with Mollie. Bye guys.